Hi, traders. How are you? Oh, yes, we are back at this again. Let's do it. Let's do it. Come on in. Grab the beverage of your choice. Sit back. Relax. Got a very interesting show for you today. Let's do this. While we are waiting for our crew to pile in here, let me know where you're piping in from. Where are you coming in from? Harasha, good afternoon. George, where are you coming in from, guys? Talk to me. Philippines. Welcome, Louis from the Philippines. Welcome. Romania. I love it. Romania's in the house. Mexico's in the house. Panama. Israel's in the house. I love it. Texas. Can't do anything without Texas, guys. Tampa. Venezuela. Westchester, New York. That's my town. That's my county. Jacksonville, Florida. Spain's in the house. Portugal. Argentina. Paraguay. Sweden. Colombia. Medellin. Cali. All right. Bogota. Uruguay. London. Oh, yeah. Orlando. I love it. Italy. Guys, Italy's here. We can start. You know we can't do anything without Italy. Portugal. Yeah. Passaic, New Jersey. Wow. That brings back memories. Lima. And of course, that crypto capital of the world, Miami. I love it. Angola. Guys, you know we're always an international audience here. All over the world, all different time frames. I love it. I love it. Traders, today we have a very, very special show today. I don't know who would be calling me right now. We have a very, very special show today because for the very first time, I have allowed or opened up my doors to a special guest. You guys know how picky I am. You know that I've virtually never done this, that I've gotten hundreds and hundreds of requests to come into our community, come into our world. And I've just been always reluctant to expose us to, I don't know, shilling and a whole bunch of other things. But for the very first time, I will tell you that I came across an individual who resonated with me in a very deep way. And I believe that you all understand that is saying something, that I am often very difficult to move, very difficult to impress. And this individual has seemed to do that. Now, I can't really remember when I first became aware of British Hodl, but the first thing that I was drawn to was his Twitter page. And on his Twitter page, right at the top, were 3 rules that made me laugh and fall out of my chair. And British Hodl had me from that. And those 3 rules were: 1, buy Bitcoin; 2, shut the fuck up; and 3, get fabulously wealthy. And to be honest with you, this gentleman had me from there. But from there, I loved the resources on his Twitter page that he suggested that individuals go through. I'd gone through all of them, but in one of those resources was a talk given by British Hodl himself, or an interview of some sort. And the first thing that came to mind was that this guy is me with a British accent. I mean, I believe that today, and amongst with our conversation today, you're going to see this. You're going to hear many of the things that I've been preaching to you for a very long time. And I believe that many of you are going to say, Oliver, listen, that's literally you. with a British accent. So listen, traders, British Hodl is obviously anonymous. I don't believe that anyone in the world has seen who he really, really is, at least as British Hodl himself. I believe that we're going to increasingly see more and more individuals take this route as safety and privacy become an increasing concern. But listen, without any further ado, I would like to bring you British Hodl. British, how are you,
Hey,
buddy?
my man. I'm fantastic. How are you?
Fantastic, man. It is an honor to have you here. Thank you very much for taking time out of what I'm sure is a very busy schedule to be with us today, but we're honored to have you.
No, thank you for having me, and thanks for the nice words.
Oh,
Hopefully, we
fantastic.
can help some people today.
So, and I'm certainly we will. We certainly will help people. British, just so you know, we are a special group of Bitcoiners. Virtually every single person that we're talking to right now is a Bitcoin hodler. We have been together in a formalized way in this group for almost a year now. And we are over 3,000 strong at the current moment. We used to be over 4,000 strong before the market, before Bitcoin's correction. But we are 3,000 strong at the current moment. And we close this group off to new. We only open admissions to this special group twice a year. So as you just saw, we are from all over the world, but it is predominantly made up of individuals who speak either English, Spanish, or Portuguese. Obviously, our conversation will be in English, but what is going on currently is simultaneous translations in all three or two of those other languages. So I'm going to be. I'm very honored. I'm happy to basically spread your message to my following. And as I mentioned, you're practically the first person I've done this with, and I've been doing this for a very long time.
Oh, that's a pleasure. Thank you. I feel super special now.
Fantastic. So, you know, what I want to actually start off with you is what I'm sure many of my individual followers are going to want to know right off the bat. Why anonymous? Like, what made you decide to be a public figure, but in an anonymous way?
You know, I sort of just fell into it. I have a really public personal life, and I just sort of came into it, and the people that I connected with were also anonymous in the Bitcoin space when I was doing my own research and finding my own conviction, and then I just sort of went along with it. And it was it's been really interesting to see how being anonymous just sort of captures the imagination, so to say. You know, it's quite entertaining to see that in people, and I kind of like it. I kind of like it now. I don't really have a problem with me sort of showing who I am. I've had a long life of doing that, but I think there is going to be an advantage of, you know, what it does. What I've realized, it forces people to judge what you're saying and not who they can see you to be.
That's a great point.
Right? But you can't see if I'm driving a Lambo. You can't see if I'm rocking a Patek Philippe. You can't see whether I've got gold chains around my neck. Like, you can't see any of these things. So then you are forced to judge whether the words coming out of my mouth are valuable or not.
That's great. That's great. And, you know, as I mentioned, I believe that going forward, I think that you know, we're going to move into a world where privacy concerns and even protection become greater concerns, especially as Bitcoiners experience or move toward a world where there's hyper Bitcoinization, when Bitcoin eventually becomes the most valuable asset on planet Earth, and as a greater percentage of the world and the population understands how valuable it is, there's always going to be, in my opinion, that group of have-nots that really try to take it out or try to take what they did not take the steps to obtain earlier from those who have. So I just think there's a greater concern moving forward in terms of privacy and security. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that that could be a concern, and definitely is an increasing concern, especially with a bearer instrument asset like Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
But yes, at the end of the day, to me, you've got to get a certain amount of wealth because only then will you have what I like to call escape velocity. If you're in the middle class right now, you've got to make one of two choices. Either number one, you get extremely poor, in which case, the world that we're going into, you're going to have a slightly marginally a better life because they're just going to print a bunch of money and give you stuff,
That's very
and
true.
you've got less stress. Or your choice is to get extremely wealthy so that you can hit that extreme velocity. If escape velocity, if you're in the middle, you're just going to get boiled alive because they can't get anything from me, and they can't get anything from a poor person. So they're only going to come after the middle class.
Interesting. Interesting. So obviously, moving into a world where the printing of dollars and the debasement of fiat currencies worldwide is only going to get worse. It's your take that those at the bottom of the totem pole, for lack of a better phrase, are actually going to experience a bump up in the quality of their lives because they're going to be fiat richer, but Bitcoiners will be truly wealthier. That's your point of view?
Yes, yeah. So,
Interesting.
when in order because you look at how many people are struggling right now just to pay food bills, for example. Well, if they had UBI, their life would be a lot easier, right?
Right.
From a stress perspective. So their life probably is going to get a little bit better, and that's how the governments will use politics to get those policies through.
Wow. Interesting. Interesting. That's an interesting point of view. Interesting. Um, before we start, before you became this mega Bitcoin bull, and that's what I'd like to see you as. That's what I see you as. I'm the same. Before you became that, um, what were you doing? What were your passions? Was there ever anything in your life that you were as passionate about as you are Bitcoin today?
I'm a passionate profit maximalist, and to me, Bitcoin is just the single best asset that humanity has created. So, regardless of Bitcoin, my passions align with profiting, and they align with capitalism, and they align with freedom. Um, Regardless of Bitcoin, it could be anything else, right? Bitcoin's just the best thing.
Sure.
So I started off in real estate. I was extremely passionate about real estate. Then I started learning about equities, and then I started getting into gold in 2008, 2009.
Mm.
Um, I made a big mistake with Bitcoin a few years ago. I was sitting in a cigar lounge with my best friend, and we just thought Bitcoin was shit because my background is real estate, equities, and
Sure.
gold,
And
right? So
gold.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like this. What is this asset? And we each bought 20 Bitcoins at the time, and then sold them 2 weeks later, sitting in the same cigar lounge in the same seat because we doubled our money, and we
Feeling
thought,
very good about yourselves.
yeah, because you double your money in any other asset
Absolutely.
class, and it's like this is
That's
fantastic,
amazing.
right?
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and then obviously went on to regret that. And then March of 2020, I actually got back from Medellin, Colombia, back to London, and we went into lockdown. And then I started listening to the Bitcoin Standard by Seyfedin Ammous, and
Yes.
and and when he mentions stock to flow, that's when the penny dropped for me. Be having a 10-year, 11-year gold background by that point, the penny dropped, and I was like, I've completely messed this up. I've been completely and utterly wrong about this asset, and I need to get as much of it as possible.
Wow. Wow. So the Bitcoin Standard, yes, that's a very, very moving book. While that book didn't actually ignite me being sort of like a serious Bitcoiner, I did read it afterwards, but wow,
Hmm.
extraordinarily impactful. And, what's interesting to me, British, is that we both sort of have this history with gold. And one of the things I've noticed about my history with gold and my success with gold in the past is that it was both, for me, as it relates to Bitcoin, it was both an impediment. It made it easier for me not to accept Bitcoin. But at the
Hmm.
same time, it was actually one of the major causes that allowed me to accept it later on. So like because it wasn't physical, because it was, man-made and not made by God. And those are the things that a true gold bug um, basically uses to eschew the whole idea of Bitcoin. But at the same time, scarcity, self-sovereignty, the fact that at least initially it wasn't created or controlled by governments, all of those similarities were there with gold. So while the jump from gold to Bitcoin was easy, there was also it was also easy to erect a wall. But when that moment occurred for me, when that epiphany occurred for me, which was a little earlier in 2019, um, when it did happen, it was complete. It was almost like that moment in Damascus. I mean, I fell off the horse and boom, it was instant and it was complete. So anyway, I find that our past and our experiences with gold being similar is really interesting.
It's the same thing for me. Like gold allowed me to understand Bitcoin, and at the same time allowed me to reject Bitcoin. Um, and and it's quite funny now. And I've dealt with gold bugs for 11 years now, and what I've come to realize is that gold bugs are not wrong in the problem that they see. They're just terribly wrong in the solution.
Mm.
Gold, if you weren't using equity market strategies on gold positions over the last 10 years, your
Oh wow.
total return, not compounded growth rate return, your total return was maybe 30 to 40%. Like, yeah, and so you're negative on inflation. You're definitely negative on money growth. Last
Absolutely.
year alone, 40% of all US dollars in circulation were printed in the last 12 months. So you've gold has been a complete and utter failure of an
Totally.
asset protection vehicle.
Totally. Totally.
You know, Bitcoin's just the right answer, but gold bugs understand the problem.
Now, and it came as a complete shock to me. Obviously, we know that if there were ever a year in history that was perfectly crafted, perfectly scripted for gold, it was obviously 2020. And the fact that it really didn't deliver, I mean, there was obviously a couple of months where it did gain some momentum, but the fact that it did not respond even remotely close to something like how Bitcoin responded was really the final nail in the coffin for me. That if everything that for the last 40 years, every gold bug has been preaching about, if everything that they have been warning about has occurred all together in 1 year and gold didn't budge, it's
Right.
finished for me. It's
Yep.
finished.
You got. I believe in following the money, right? Like, as much as I loved gold for a decade, I believe in following the money. And the one moment for me that did it was I saw the CIO of BlackRock go on CNBC, and
I
for the
remember that.
first time ever, I heard somebody on CNBC at that level say Bitcoin is gold 2.0.
Gold
And then I
2.0.
saw and then I saw 17 days of consecutive outflows from GLD. And I thought, I don't care what the price says, the money's going. So I'm out.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. That's interesting. What I've been telling my Bitcoiners here is that gold currently I think is at 11.5, 11.6 trillion dollars, but that is largely made up of two components. There's about 4.5, maybe $5 trillion of that total number is utility. So gold is used in certain as components in certain things in the world, but largely jewelry use. And the rest of that value is a monetary premium because historically it's been used as a store of value. I believe that over time, that monetary premium gets sucked out of gold and actually finds its way into other assets. The biggest one, obviously, or the closest one being gold 2.0 or Bitcoin. So there's, in my opinion, about a 5.5, almost $6 trillion that ultimately will be pointed somewhere else. And I think a big portion of that does find its way in Bitcoin. And like you said, I mean, the outflows began. We started to see the outflows out of these gold funds begin 18 months ago, 12 to 18 months ago. So anyway, that's my view. That's what I've been telling my followers.
Yeah, I agree. And the crazy thing about it is that Bank of America released a study last time during the peak in earlier this year. And they said that to move the price of Bitcoin by 1%, you needed about $93 million. So let's just round it up to $100 million, right? That was at a $1.1 trillion market cap, which
Wow.
means $100 million would move the price up by $11 billion. That's a 1 to 100 effect on the market cap. So $1 into Bitcoin increases the overall price of the market cap by $100. That's never ever, we've never ever
We've
seen
never
that
had
sort
an
of,
asset like that.
never
Absolutely.
like that. So what that tells me is that, $1 trillion, if that's true, just $1 trillion going into Bitcoin could move the market cap to $100 trillion,
That's
which
crazy.
means that's a $5 million Bitcoin approximately. That's insane.
That is insane. And of course, we know that Bitcoin is insane almost on every level. But wow, that's incredible.
Yep.
So you said your epiphany came by reading the Bitcoin Standard. At how much time did it take you from your epiphany, your aha moment, to actually purchasing Bitcoin or transferring fiat for Bitcoin, I should say?
This is a funny story. So I was walking around my local park in the springtime listening to this book. And I, once the penny dropped, I remember I can feel it right now in my body. I just stopped where I was in the park. And I was like, I have completely misunderstood this asset. I did a turnaround and I started walking home. While I was walking home, I downloaded the Coinbase app on my phone and I had already had a Coinbase account. I logged in, I wired £50,000 from my bank account to Coinbase and bought £50,000 worth of
On the spot.
Bitcoin by the time I got home.
Wow. Wow.
So pretty
I
quick.
love it. Pretty quick. That's pretty quick before you got home. I love it. I love it. Yeah. And so are you one of those buy it once kind of Bitcoiners and just let it rock, or are you a constant perpetual buyer?
Well, I mean, I have businesses and I have cash flows coming in as well. So, obviously I'm buying consistently. But to me, the argument of do I dollar cost average DCA or just smash buy, at this point with this asset, you've got a 93% hodl rate, which means 93% of all the
That's right.
Bitcoins that are available are not moving. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, you've now got a spot, a futures ETF in the US. You've got a spot ETF on the way at some point.
That's
You've
right.
got institutions looking at buying, which I don't think they're ready just yet, but there's murmurings of that. You've got so much demand coming for this asset that instead of DCAing, what you should be doing is spending all day and all night for the next 3 days to understand this asset and understand what it is and get an allocation. You can always DCA onwards with your paycheck or whatever, but you've got to right now is the time for you to understand what this asset is really quickly. And it's not just a trade. You've got to understand the asset and understand what it is long term to secure your core position and then do whatever you want to do. I'm still involved in public markets and equities and things like that. They're just Bitcoin related. But, to me, once I understood Bitcoin, Bitcoin became my hurdle rate. And if anyone hasn't heard that term before, it's the baseline return that a fund manager generates for you before you have to start paying a fee for them managing your money.
Right.
And to me now, Bitcoin is my hurdle rate. So whatever the 5-year average compound annual growth rate for Bitcoin is, that is my hurdle rate. If I can't generate a higher return than that, my money should stay in Bitcoin.
Should stay in Bitcoin. Absolutely right.
So I have opportunities because of the skills that I have to generate a higher compound annual growth rate than that. So I take a portion of my investments and do that to get more Bitcoin. But for most people, just hodling Bitcoin is probably going to be the best thing.
Right. Now, so I take it that you still, based on what you said, you still operate in other markets with the express intention of making fiat to potentially, add to your Bitcoin holdings. Is that what I hear? Okay.
Yeah, like my portfolio, I'm just looking at it right now. In the last year is up 690%.
Nice.
The Bitcoin compound annual growth rate is for the last 5 years is 244%.
I think we lost him. Guys. Let me see if I can get him back here, guys. I think we lost him. He might have hit the button by mistake here, looking at his portfolio. All right. Let's see. I agree, Raphael. Awesome. Let's see if we can get him back here. Yeah, he's logging back in. Here he goes. Let me bring him back here right now. All right, got you back here, British. Are you there? I can't hear you. Are you there? All right, he's going to log back in again. Raphael says, this is more interesting than a suspense movie. I agree. Bridget's story is very interesting, and his take on things are interesting as well. All right, let's give him just a minute or so to get back on here. So I hope you guys are doing okay. Here he comes here. Let's see. There we go. Got you back, British. Are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you back. I
think it was a Safari issue, so I just logged in on Chrome.
All right, cool. Raphael is saying that this is more interesting than a suspense movie. Awesome. So you were talking about your portfolio outperforming Bitcoin by a factor of almost 3.
Right? Yeah, almost 3. This year's growth rate is a bit higher because it's the bull market year for Bitcoin, so we're at 344% this year. Sure. But yeah, basically, if I can beat 244% in a year, I'm going to take it. If not, I'm not going to take it because Bitcoin is the hurdle rate.
I like that take because, listen, the equity markets have been my life for the last 40 years, and that is my specialty. And so what a group of us do here is we use our specialty in the equity markets to do exactly what you're doing. Whenever we feel we can put a trade on that will outperform even in an abbreviated time the performance of Bitcoin during a certain period of time, we will take that play. And so we do utilize a mixture of equities. We do some options plays to accomplish that. But my message here with my Bitcoiners is that right now, there should be nothing more important in life than accumulating this pristine asset called Bitcoin right now, that you should spend every moment of your waking existence accumulating this, because in a relatively short period of time, I just think Bitcoin's going to outprice the vast majority of the world. And so their attempts to accumulate it later will be much more minimalized. And it's possible that we reach a point where it's just not going to be available in large quantities in the future. So today is the time. So that's my message for them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you have an asset that has an actual finiteness to it. That's just think about that for 1 second. That has never ever happened before, even with gold, because the gold supply inflates at 2% a year. Gold is
Forever.
not, yeah, gold is not finite.
No,
Gold
of
is
course
not
not.
finite. Bitcoin is actually finite. There are only 21 million Bitcoin. Before COVID, there were 46 million millionaires in the world. After COVID, there are 55 million
Million.
millionaires in the
That's
world.
right.
Not every millionaire can buy half of a Bitcoin.
It's crazy.
So this asset is so rare and so scarce. And on top of that, it's a better quality asset than everything. It's a better quality asset than the stock market because you don't have to pick the CEO, you don't have to pick the team, you don't have to time the trade, you don't have to worry about trading against algorithms and hedge funds and things like
Yes.
that. You don't have to. It's better than real estate because you don't have to worry about which market do you want to be in. You don't have to worry about every asshole tenant that you've got to put in your properties. You don't have to worry about every dickhead mortgage broker and financier that you've got to deal with. And let's not even talk about the lawyers, right? So you don't have to worry about any of that. And then number one, the biggest risk in real estate that nobody talks about is the geographical risk. Because like you spend a lot of time. Are you in Medellin right now? Are you in Colombia right
I
now?
am Medellin right now, yes.
So let's look at Colombia, right? I love Colombia. I spend 2 to 3 months every year in
That's
Colombia.
amazing. That's another thing we have in common. Look at that.
But one vote that goes wrong in Colombia,
Yes.
and it heads down the path of Venezuela faster than any other country that you've got, right? That's a risk, a political geographical risk to a real estate investment in Colombia. And you're gonna, if that was gonna get close to happening, you would see a flight of capital like you've never seen before, and then you'd have to take a discount on your investment just to get rid of it and liquidate some. With Bitcoin, I can own it. It's like with Bitcoin, it's like imagine we were all, imagine that we all need homes. All of us need a house, right?
And there were only 21 million.
It's not even that. It's even worse than that. Let's say all of us need a house. 7 billion people need a house, right? The only land that is available in the entire world is Manhattan. Like that's the only land available in the entire world, not just in America, not just in New York, in the entire world. The only land space is Manhattan, and everyone needs homes, right?
It's impossible, of course.
So Bitcoin's a better investment than real estate. It's much more scarce than real estate. Not only that, I can take Bitcoin completely internationalizes finance. So I can own Bitcoin in London and I can send it to Colombia if there's a better bank there that's giving me finance terms on the asset. And they don't even need to worry about the asset because if it arrives in their wallet, it's a real Bitcoin because the network takes care of that.
That's right.
Right? And if that bank fucks around, I can press one button and send all of my Bitcoin, all of my wealth to Singapore. And if that bank doesn't give me favorable rates, I can send it to New York in a second. I can take all of my money and move it in a second. So now the world, these financiers finally become your service providers, which is what they should have been from the start.
That's exactly their role. Exactly their role. And no permission, barely a document. I don't even see how documents are going to be necessary. No approval process. No, where were you educated? What color you are? What part of town you come from? None of that nonsense. You got Bitcoin, and all the services go to the Bitcoiners in the future.
It's pure capitalism.
That's right.
Do you have the money, and can you prove ownership? And you get the service. It's as simple as that. And then not only that, you can then now take your wealth anywhere in the world. It's not like you have to sit, in New York because your property portfolio is in New York, or your property portfolio is in London, or your property portfolio is in Medellin, Colombia. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about any single geographical thing. If they treat you like shit in Colombia, you get on a plane and go to Puerto Rico, or you go to Costa Rica, or you go to Panama, you go to wherever, you go to El Salvador, right? You
That's
go
right.
to wherever you are treated best. And the moment you get on the plane, your entire wealth goes with you.
That's right. Absolutely. The transportability, the transportability of Bitcoin is just, it's truly mind-boggling. And 12 English words. That's all you need. 12 English words. And this is for the first time in human history, we're able to, through Bitcoin, we're able to have total control, self-sovereignty over our life's work, over our personal value, over our property.
Yeah, to
That's
me,
just astounding.
the biggest crime in human history that we have that we have going on right now is the fact that every single person has to sweat, has to bleed, has to cry, has to spend time away from their children, their loved ones, their family, and their legacy and their peace, just to work for someone else's dream, get a paycheck, and then in order to keep that value, they now need to go and become a professional investor just to maintain the value that they've already earned, right? And
That's
then when
right.
they try and do that, they get a 95% chance of losing that, because there's a 95% chance of losing money in trading.
That's right.
So just think about the corruption to the human spirit when you know that's what's happening to you.
Right.
And
The
we
value
wonder,
that you've already created, you have to now go out into the world and find a way to actually maintain it.
right. And when you do that, you've got a 95% chance
It's a chance of losing it. Wow.
What type of world do we live in? And then we wonder why nobody cares about their neighbors anymore. And we wonder why people are just interested in short-term consumerism. And we wonder why no one's interested in building families anymore. Because it doesn't matter. It
That's
doesn't
right.
fucking, when the money is corrupted itself, why does anything else matter?
That's right. I mean, it promotes this very short-term oriented view. It promotes a spending mentality, a wasteful mentality, because the value is the highest now for you.
Yes.
Instead of the value being higher later, the value is higher now, and the value is going to be lower later. So it promotes that instant gratification type of mentality.
That's why people in Colombia are happier than people in the United States or in the UK, because by not having the money in the first place, they haven't been corrupted yet. Whereas once you get a taste of that, right? The job of the system that we live in, and it's not capitalism. What we have right now is not capitalism.
No, not in its pure sense. That's right.
The job of that system is to keep you running and keep you going and keep you sort of feeding the system over and over again. So they want you to earn, and then they want you to spend, and then they want you to borrow, and then they want you to earn again, and they want you to spend again, and they want you to borrow again, because that's how they, and this is why we've got all the political bullshit that we've got going on right now is all because of the extension of this fiat money system. Everything is downstream of fiat money. The fact that we've got 87% of women that are now in the workplace, and everyone was told feminism is going to be so great, it's going to make all these women happy. 87% of women that have children resent their partners now for not earning enough so that they can stay at home and look after the children, right? That's because direct effect of the fiat money system that we live in. Right? You look at it and you go, why are people protesting in the US and the UK in the most abundant time in history? Why are they doing it? Because they have no sense of ownership of their own community. So of course they're going to turn over a police car and blow up a corner shop in their own community when they don't own any of it. Right?
Wow.
Bitcoin gives you a sense of ownership. Finally, some ownership.
Finally, complete self-sovereign ownership, independence and ownership. And we've just We've never had an ability to do that. We've never had an asset that allowed for that. So,
Yeah.
wow, amazing.
Yes. We've only had assets that are protected and limited and controlled for a certain group of people. And
That's
if you
right.
play the game and you bend the knee and you kiss the ring, can you get access to it, right? And then what they'll do is they'll turn the stock market, which is an amazing wealth creation asset, and they'll turn it into a casino. So that the average person comes in, loses all of their money, and then goes back and has to work again. They can't
That's right.
actually get actual freedom. When do you get told that the best solution, if you want to invest in the stock market long term, is just to invest in an index fund after you've made the damn money? You never get told when you're trying to make money.
Trying to make money.
Right. So all of these things go out the window with Bitcoin because and the most beautiful thing about the asset to me is that it's completely, the information, it's completely symmetrical, i.e., I can get the same information at the same speed as you and Michael Saylor and Tim Cook and Jeff Bezos and everyone, because it's all on chain and it's all available. It's not like the stock market where I need to speak to the right person. It's not like real estate where I need to make the right connections. It's
Sure.
not like that, right? I and Michael Saylor can sit down at the exact same time and learn about Bitcoin at the exact same speed. That's never happened before
Never.
in history. There are no gatekeepers.
I love it. I love it, British. Man, the comments here are going crazy. Wow, this is awesome. Amazing. So true. I love this. You spoke of British. You spoke of real estate, and you spoke obviously about you having a strong background in real estate. What is your view on real estate now that Bitcoin has come into existence as being one of, if not the apex asset in the world? What's your view? Where does that fit?
Yeah, real estate is approximately a 240, $250 trillion market worldwide. I think that it's not ready yet, but when it is ready, when Bitcoin is more accepted, I think real estate will start seeing some competition. At this particular moment in time, look, governments have a few choices, right? Because if you don't want a revolution, you've got to keep the peasants happy. And one of the ways of keeping the peasants happy is to keep affordable housing, right? Good affordable
Sure.
housing. And so you've seen property prices go up so much. In the UK, for example, the average property is now 8 times higher than the average wage. That's the biggest spread that we've ever seen. And that's too big. So I think that governments are going to follow policies like Canada, which basically said no more foreign investment in property. And if you are a foreign owner in Canadian real estate, we're going to tax you even more because they want to bring down the property prices.
They're going to narrow the spreads. And so there's going to be a cap on the appreciation prospects of real estate. That's what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. So either one of a few options, either the property prices come down or, which is what or really wage inflation goes through the roof, which I don't think is going to happen because you can't afford to pay the peasants that much.
Combination of both, right?
Maybe I think it's a combination of both. Yeah. So I think they'll bring the property prices down a little bit, and I think wage inflation is going to kick up as well, which means that if you are a real estate investor right now and you're attached to real estate because of whatever emotional attachment you have, you better pull your head out of your backside because you're going to get squeezed.
You crack me up.
It's just the truth. Last year, my parents have spent 35 years building a property portfolio, right? And they don't understand Bitcoin. They don't know what the hell it is. It was like, what are you going on about? You hated this thing a few years ago. And I said, we need to refinance your entire property portfolio or sell it and get into Bitcoin. They're like, no, we're not going to do that. We spent enough time building this. I said, fine, I'm going to refinance your property portfolio and buy 1 Bitcoin for every property, right? And that was last year. When Bitcoin crosses $100,000, they have doubled the value of their property portfolio that they spent 35 years building inside of 1 year. And
1 year. Wow.
And it's liquid.
Wow. That's amazing.
And the tenants are paying for it.
And the tenants are paying for it. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, if you've got assets right now, if you've got a real estate portfolio right now and you haven't borrowed against that to acquire this asset, and obviously this isn't financial advice, but I personally think that that will not doing that will be the single biggest financial mistake of your entire life. And unfortunately, because of the nature of Bitcoin and the scarce nature of it, it will be the single biggest financial mistake of your entire, your children's lives and their children's lives, because you've basically given away an opportunity to borrow money at a close to 0% interest rate that's paid for by the tenants to acquire an asset that's absolutely finite, and you've given it up.
Right. Wow. You've got to use this asset to get Bitcoin.
You use everything to get Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
Because
There you go.
Bitcoin should be your benchmark. Bitcoin should be the benchmark. Like it is a finite asset. And again, people might be going, "Oh, this guy's crazy on Bitcoin." It's because I understand the asset. And I understand if you're coming at me going, this sounds a little bit nuts. I get you, because I was there too. I was exactly there. All I'm telling you is you need to understand the asset. Spend
Yes.
time understanding the asset.
And that is definitely what we do here. But obviously, this is going to be made available to a much broader audience at some point. And yes, that is definitely something that I'm a very big supporter as well. You've got to go down the rabbit hole. You've got to understand the asset. Otherwise, a lot of this BS that happens almost on a day-to-day basis will shake you, will move you, will keep you in doubt about the asset, and you've got to know enough to stand firm.
Yes. This asset Bitcoin is going to $5 million a coin by the end of the decade.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and the math is completely there. Like I said, if Bank of America is right and the multiple is 100 to 1, you only need $1 trillion going into this asset. It's not ready yet because we're going through a phase transition on this asset. By 2024, it will be ready.
It will be ready. I agree with that.
It will be ready. Right now, you need to stop everything you're fucking doing and figure out how to acquire as much of this asset as you can, because times are closing in for you.
Did I tell you, traders, did I tell you that the message you were going to hear from British is exactly what you hear every single day here? It's amazing. But right on, British, right on. I would be remiss if I didn't ask this, and I know I have quite a few people who are sitting on the edge of their seats right now, waiting for me to ask you this. The shitcoins. We've talked incessantly so far about one cryptocurrency asset, Bitcoin. I don't even put Bitcoin in the category personally of anything else. But what's your view on the Ethereums of the world, the Solanas of the world, the Cardanos of the world? What's your view there?
Look, I don't spend my time worrying about those other things. Could there be opportunities there? Absolutely. But none of them are proven. All I know is that Bitcoin's value proposition is proven. It is fixed the number one biggest problem on earth, which is the store of value issue. It has fixed that. And it's not only fixed that, it's proven that it's fixed it for 12 years running without a hack, without an issue. So you look at it and you go, who the fuck wants to bother with any of these other shitcoins when there's 9,000 of them and you've got to go through and pick which one's got the risk? And I fundamentally think that the reason why people are attracted to it is because they don't truly understand Bitcoin yet. And I did this recording on Clubhouse, and Crypto Graffiti, a friend of mine, recorded it. So put some music to it and put it on YouTube. People should watch that. It's called The True Opportunity of Bitcoin. And I truly think that the reason why people are attracted to like shitcoins is because they think that they've missed the boat on Bitcoin. And I'm telling you,
that's right.
This is a $60,000 asset, and it's going to $5 million a coin by the end of the decade. If you need a better opportunity than that, with the risk profile that this has, which is a very low risk profile, as from both the technological and the government perspective, if you really need a higher return than that, I think you might have a problem.
That's right. I agree. Very unrealistic. And, listen, the 5 million, that's a very conservative number, because a $13 million Bitcoin by 10 years from today, 2031, we've done the numbers on this. That's actually assuming a 70% annual return on Bitcoin, coming down from a 240% annualized return that we have today. So I think five million is actually even conservative, but it's
It
a good.
is.
It is. It is.
It is. I don't want to scare anyone. Because by the way, here's the other thing. My $5 million price target. I'm not one of these, adapted gold bugs, right? Where I'm going, everything's going to collapse. The US is going to collapse
I
for
agree.
Bitcoin to get to. I think you could get to $5 million of Bitcoin without the bond market collapsing, without the stock market collapsing, without the US collapsing, without anything changing. You can get to $5 million of Bitcoin.
With nothing. It needs nothing to get there.
Zero to change. If everything else starts collapsing, you're looking at a $40 million Bitcoin.
That's right. That's right. So if Bitcoin starts to become that black hole that starts to suck portions of every other store of value into it, we're going way past 5 million. But I like your point. It doesn't need a single thing to get to 5 million.
Right. Nothing needs to collapse to get to $5 million.
I love it. I love it. I love it. What's your view on the Bitcoin maximalism, the toxic nature that people speak about all the time? What's your take there?
I think they have a good intent. I've certainly been I've been a toxic maximalist, and I've also been on the receiving end of the toxic maximalist. So
it's a tough community. It's a tough community.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm a profit maximalist at core, right? If there are people out there that are saying all you need to do is buy Bitcoin and not do anything, that doesn't make sense to me. You got one opportunity in life, you got one shot to acquire as much of the scarcest asset that humanity has ever created. You should be doing every single thing you can to get it. So toxic maximalists, they're well intentioned, and I get it. I just think that they're hurting inside and they need a hug.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome, man. This might be somewhat of a touchy topic. Well, I'm not going to say it's going to be a touchy topic. I think that what I told my audience here before you came on a couple days ago, is that I was going to be interested in exploring some of the things that perhaps we might not come to terms on, because there's so much that we are very similar in terms of our view and our take on things. But one of those areas, based on, I think, an interview I saw from you, is on the sell side. You see, British, my audience is so indoctrinated to sell and take profits, and I have been the cause for that. But what I've been trying to do, what I've struggled to do over the past 18 months, is to really convince them that this is not the asset to do that with, that we don't sell the rarest asset in the world. We don't sell, especially now when less than 2% of the world has adopted it. And that if 2% of the world has adopted it and it's 1 trillion, imagine where it's going to be when 10% of the world adopts it, and 20% of the world adopts it, and 30% of the world adopts it. So never in your lifetime will there ultimately be an appropriate moment to sell. Now, that's my message to them. And I have to do a lot to swing the pendulum back from the other extreme that I've always taught, that not taking a profit is being an idiot. But with this asset, I just believe that we are so early that if I were to have sold my core Apple position when it was 12 years old at 1992, or my Microsoft position when it was 12 years old, or anything else that's run for decades, it would have not been the right time. So there's never been a time during my holding period of Apple to really, really sell. Never been a time with Amazon. Never been a time with multiple assets that have gone on to become trillion-dollar assets. And we're so early in the adoption curve of Bitcoin. We don't even have a spot ETF yet that there should not even be a moment that you're thinking about selling or taking profits or giving up ownership, because this is the type of asset that can price you out overnight. And so what are you going to do with the proceeds? What guarantee will do you have that you're going to put it in? And what guarantee will you be able to put it in at a more advantageous price? And so to get rid of all of that, we don't sell. Maybe we hedge, but we don't sell the underlying asset. What's your take on that?
Yeah, Bitcoin should become, like, up until now, the unit of account that you've been using is the US dollar. And now that we have an actual scarce asset, your unit of account should become Bitcoin. And so once you understand that every single thing you're doing is to acquire more Bitcoin. And as far as I know, trading, shit coins and things like that, Ethereum has never made another high against Bitcoin. It's made high against the US dollar. It's never made another high against Bitcoin. So
you mean since that ultimate, that first initial run up?
Since 2017,
Yeah,
like, it's
I think
never
you're right.
made. Yeah, if you look at Ethereum, ETH, BTC,
right,
it's never made another
that's
high against
still
Bitcoin.
that peak. That peak is still there. That's right, as the all-time
Yeah.
high.
So what's the point of fucking investing in Ethereum if your goal is to own more Bitcoin? If your goal is to own more US dollars, that's fine. But I again, you must be smoking something really good from California if you want to hold US dollars as your baseline asset.
Right. Sell it into what? Like,
what else are you going to buy?
Yeah.
Have that conversation. Like, look yourself in the mirror, and when you're thinking about selling your Bitcoin, sit down and be a grown-up about it and plan, like, what am I going to sell this into, right? Because when you sell something, you're also buying something. So the question you got to ask yourself is, I'm going to sell this, and what am I buying? And pretty soon you go, I'm going to sell my Bitcoin to buy US dollars. And then look at yourself in the mirror and slap yourself 3 times.
Right. I'm going to sell my Bitcoin to buy US dollars.
Right.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Right. That's what people are doing when they trade it.
Absolutely. So yes, by switching the mindset, because like money or currency, if you will, is really a way of thinking. And so we naturally think in dollar terms and all day long without even noticing. We value a watch we see, or an item on the shelf in the supermarket. We're really thinking through the dollar, or we're thinking through a fiat currency. Yeah. And so if that thought process changes to become a thought process through Bitcoin, then you sell other things to Bitcoin. You don't sell to other things to the dollar. You begin to sell other things you do into Bitcoin.
Right.
And yes, so then we are on the same page with that.
Yeah, make Bitcoin. No, make Bitcoin your unit of account. Like that. It's the reason why I'm a watch collector as well. I sold 75% of my watches last year.
Man, I sold many years before you, but I auctioned off a big watch collection as well back in 2008. But yeah, I got into the watch thing as well. The biggest portion of my collection were Patek Philippe's. What about yours?
Yeah, mine now is, I basically focus on Patek and FP Journe. I sold all my Rolexes last year and put it into Bitcoin.
All right, and put it into Bitcoin. And how's that done for you?
It's been pretty good.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think I sold my Rolexes when Bitcoin was $9,000 or something like that.
Nice. Now, the watches have been going through the roof as well. They're hard to stay on the shelves now.
If you get the right one, right? Like you can get a Rolex that, it's going to go up by 10%, but you're not even beating inflation at that level. No, you're not even beating money printing at that level.
That's right. So guys, as most of you guys know, I do have another event, but before to get to, this has been an incredible time we're spending here with British Hodl. Before I let him go, I do want to take a few questions from you. So let me see. Let me scroll through here. I can find something here. If you have an interesting question you'd like British to answer, this is your time to ask it in the chat here. All right. But let's see. All right, let's see here. Someone was saying that another thing we have in common is that we have the 007 in our IDs. Do you have 007 in your handle of some sort?
No.
Okay, I don't know what he's talking about there. He's talking about there. All right, so if Tony Medina is saying if Bitcoin hits 5 million, how much will a Satoshi be? Well, a Satoshi is $1 at a million. So it's going to be $5.
No, it's 100 million Satoshis per Bitcoin.
I mean, I'm sorry, that's right, 100. So it's a penny at one. It's 5 cents at 5 million. It's 5 cents, right? So it's a penny at 1 million.
Yeah, it's 5 cents.
It's 5 cents at if we're thinking in terms of dollars, of course.
Yeah.
When you Jason Hood, when you borrow at zero and invest at 200% a year, yes, that's what we're talking about here.
It is a speculative attack on the US dollar when you do that.
That's right. And that's essentially what Michael Saylor did. Was he used the system and turned it on its head and turned it on its head. I mean, he basically raised money close to 0%. I think he did at one round at 0%, right?
Yep. He started off with $500 million in his cash treasury balance sheet of his company, and he ended one year later in buying a total of $3.3 billion of Bitcoin by using his brain.
That's right.
And it's now worth 7 or 8 billion.
It's amazing.
That's insane.
Insane. Raphael's asking, until what price do you think it will be worth continuing to accumulate? Is there a point at which you stop accumulating Bitcoin?
It's the most scarcest asset in history. It's going up forever, Raphael.
Forever.
It's going up forever. Like that's, like it's, as Michael Saylor said to Laura, it's going up forever. Like
forever. Do you hear that?
Understand the asset, Raphael. You need to do some work and understand what this actually is. I would say that once the compound annual growth rate over a 5-year average comes down to 25%, you may want to consider making other investments, but you're never going to take it out of Bitcoin.
That's right. That's right. You see that? Going up forever. Why would there ever be a time that it's not appropriate to accumulate? Absolutely. All right, Tony Turner is asking, what do you see happening to governments when the playing field starts to level for the lower and middle classes?
I think governments should become what they're supposed to be, which is service providers. Right now, governments and certain politicians are kept in power because then there's no accountability. They can just print more money and give it to the politicians to stay in power. When you have something that's more sound, people are going to go, is it worth me giving money to these politicians if they don't do what I want them to do?
That's right.
You've got, how many times have politicians promised, in the US, in the UK, certain communities, different things for their votes and never delivered on it? That's because the money doesn't come from those communities. Only the votes do. But when the money and the votes come from those people, that's when they'll start listening. And until then, they're just going to continue taking advantage. So we've got to do this as fast as possible.
That's right. Bitcoin brings power back to the people. And it's just another example that when you fix the money, you fix a great many things in the world. Amazing. Amazing. Felipe is asking, when is the smartest way to borrow against Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin with it? So when is it?
I would say as close to the 200-week moving average as possible.
I agree with that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and only 25 to 35% loan to value.
And I even think that's high. But yes, you definitely want to do it on collapses and not on strong moves to the upside. Certainly not at all-time new highs. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, and I like the word you use, on collapses, not on corrections. Like you
That's
want to
right.
wait until there's a proper collapse to the 200
Collapse.
week moving average and then consider it.
That's right. That's right. I agree. Awesome. Okay. Do you think that Andrea's asking, do you think that we will have another Bitcoin winter bear cycle?
Yeah, I don't think that the institutional buying narrative is playing out in the way that people thought it was, including the way that I thought it was. I don't think the asset's ready for it yet.
I saw that post from you today and thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I just don't think it's ready for it yet. And I think this asset has to mature a little bit and things have to get ready for that. And I think that happens in 2024.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. Um, another member here is asking, how do you feel about having your Bitcoin in places like BlockFi and Celsius to earn interest?
I mean, they keep rug pulling the interest that they're giving, right? It starts at 3%, then it comes down, it comes down, it comes down, it comes down. It's like, put it like this. Let's say you were renting a property out for $1,000 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and your agent showed up in a Benz, had a beautiful suit on, spoke proper English, everything was great, and you're getting $1,000 a month. Someone else shows up, knocks on your door, you open the door, he's got ripped jeans, he's got like sandals that are like, he's been walking 1,000 miles in them, he's got a cocaine stain under his nose, like, and that guy he's shaking a little bit and he says, give me your property and I'll give you $1,060 a month. Are you going to take that risk? Answer's probably no. And that's what these companies are at this point. They're not established companies yet. Once
Right.
they get established, once somebody like Goldman Sachs starts offering something like that, once somebody like JP Morgan starts offering something like that, that's when you start considering these things. These companies could go belly up, without too much of a worry. So I think it's okay. I just don't trust it. That's the way I
Yeah,
put it.
I understand what you're saying. The banks are coming. I mean, they're coming. The banks in America obviously have gotten approval to be custodians of this rare asset, and in the future, they're going to be providing all of those services, I believe.
Bank of
Absolutely.
America said it like a week and a half ago that in
Wow,
the future, borrowing against Bitcoin, it will be a possibility with Bank of fucking America. And nobody picked that story up. I couldn't believe it.
that's
That's
amazing.
huge.
That is huge. That is huge. And so we'll take the last one from James here, British. It's a good one to end on. James is asking, how many Bitcoin do you think we need to have to be able to retire comfortably in 5 to 10 years out?
I don't know. It depends on how much the purchasing power of the US dollar is deteriorated because I don't think the US dollar disappears in the next, 10 years.
No.
Um, so it really depends on that. All I do know is that there's a gang that I like to call the $10 a month DCA gang, which is basically a bunch of broke people that tell people all you need to do is dollar cost average a small amount every single month into Bitcoin and you'll be fine and buy your 15 million Satoshis and you're going to be okay. You're going to be fucked. What you need to do is panic as much as you can and get close to one Bitcoin as fast as possible. Right now, you have an advantage because this asset hasn't become fully institutionalized yet. So while this is happening, work your ass off and get as close to one Bitcoin as you can because you are going to lose your chance to do that as soon as this asset starts becoming more and more institutionalized. And the $10 a month DCA gang is going to have you broke. And if you listen to me, then at least you'll be able to afford food.
Do you hear that? Panic. You all should be panicking right now. That's the key word right there. They hear it all the time, British. They hear it all the time. Well, listen, my brother, it has been such an incredible, I think we've been talking just a slightly more than an hour here, but what a powerfully packed hour it was. I want to thank you for spending your time with us, sharing your insights. It's been amazing. based on the comments that I'm seeing flowing through our room here, you were exactly, if not more of a hit than what we all expected. I want to thank you, and I hope we're able to do this once again in the future.
Oh, it's been
All
a
right.
pleasure. And
And
yeah, thank you for having me, everyone.
when are you planning on visiting Medellin, Colombia again?
I could actually be there next month.
All right,
So let's just
awesome.
smoke
That
a
would be
cigar
great. That
together.
would be great if you're going to be here. I'm going to be here as well. And if we ever get an opportunity to meet in person, are you going to have that big giant, big ass B on your face when I see you?
Yeah, I carry a mask with me. It's part of my BDSM side as well. So that's how I get down.
I love it, British. I love it. Well, listen, man, I have to run, but it's been amazing. Thank you so very much, and we'll be communicating online.
No,
All
thanks
right.
for having me, guys. Ciao.
Thank you, guys. Ciao for now. Boom. Well, traders, there you have it. I told you it was going to be amazing, right? Was it amazing? Was British incredible? I told you this guy sounds the most like me. That's why I love him. But anyway, guys, many of the same messages were reiterated by British today, the same messages that we talk about here virtually every single day. You know this. A few key takeaways. We don't have time. You should be panicking. This is the rarest asset in the world. It's going to go up forever. There is never a point to sell, and there is never a point that you should think about stopping your accumulation of this asset. Another thing that came out is that you should start adopting, moving away from a fiat mentality, using the fiat as your unit of measurement, your unit of value, and start to use Bitcoin as your unit of value. So if you go out into the world and you sell something, you're selling it to actually move it to Bitcoin. You are not selling it to move it to dollars or to move it to pesos. You're selling things in the world to move the proceeds to Bitcoin. The same way you used to think, I'm selling my car for cash. I'm selling this stock for cash. No, this is the brand new era that we're in. We're in the era where you use Bitcoin as the unit of measurement. You're selling stocks to put it into Bitcoin. You're selling your car that you don't need to put the proceeds into Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the base layer. Bitcoin becomes the unit of measurement. And so when you think about selling Bitcoin, you're thinking about going backwards. I'm selling Bitcoin for what? What asset is better than Bitcoin? Certainly not a fiat currency. Certainly no other asset can come close to this. So you're going backwards. And so all of these themes we have talked about almost on a day-to-day basis. And I'm so happy to have brought British Hodl here today to reiterate many of those very same points. Wow is absolutely right. So I want to thank you all for attending. We will do this again. I promise you. This is the first, but it's certainly not going to be the last. But I told you the first time was going to be amazing. All right. So guys, listen, I want you to follow British. You should follow him. The best way to do that is his. I'm going to put that here. Is his. I'm going to put up his Twitter. Where do I have that? Shoot, I think I'm going to put it up now. Let me grab his Twitter for you so that you all can get it right. Okay. And I'll do that now. There you are. I will try to make that one the big one if I can. Yeah, and that is going to be, traders. Just go on Twitter and search at British Hodl. All right. I strongly encourage that you go through his resources section at the top. You want to take in everything that he suggested doing. Watch all of his videos on his YouTube channel as well. But you definitely want him as an influence in your life. Okay. All right. And take a moment out to say thank you to him personally for spending his special time with us today. All right. Now I've got to run, guys. There is another event that you know that I'm scheduled to do with us. That is, I don't know, why did I lose these things, guys? Why did I lose these things? Let me just see if I can grab that really fast. So in 20 minutes, guys, I am going to be doing an event on my YouTube channel. It is basically how to how to journal your way to success. We're going to talk about journaling. Now, you guys know the importance I place on writing things down. I believe there's something magical that happens when you put pen to paper. We're going to talk about how I'm going to go into the specifics of how you should be journaling your trades, what you should be getting out of the journaling of your trades. And hopefully that's going to, many of you have heard this message, but hopefully that's going to help you tweak whatever you're doing right now. And obviously, because this is going to be done for the rest of the world as well, I'm hoping that we can get as many people on the journaling bandwagon, for lack of a better word, as possible. So you meet me, guys. You meet me over there at the YouTube channel. That's going to be in both in English, Spanish, and Portuguese simultaneously. Okay. So there it is. Thank you once again, traders. I will see you over in YouTube land. And until next time, all right, be good, be well. Ciao for now. Boom.